tomatoes. We discussed bacterial diseases. We've discussed fungi disease. So the last class we talked about various fungi infections. And one thing I want us to know before we continue this class is for any disease to thrive, there's what we call disease triangle. When you are trying to tackle any disease, the fact that you are able to identify the disease, you must understand the triangle so that you can tackle it. Like the art of war says, know your enemy so that you can defeat your particular enemy. So diseases are your enemy because they are things that will hinder you from getting maximum productivity from every production. For fungi, we will consider the disease triangle. You need to have a host, there need to be a pathogen, and there need to be a conducive environment for that pathogen to multiply. Those are the those are the triangles of the what? Of disease. Now, if I want to tackle any particular fungi disease, I will first of all identify the pathogen, make sure the environment is not conducive for them. That is the only way I can tackle them or control them. So I will be calling on Mr. Sheon from Cooperative Group 4 to come and continue with the fungi disease management. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So, like the introduction said, fungal diseases have three things in order for them to survive or thrive in an environment, a conducive environment for them to thrive. And in our previous classes, we talked about various fungal diseases. I've done early blight. So we talked about early blight, we talked about late blight. Today we'll be focusing on other fungal diseases that can affect our tomato plants. So we are talking about fruit rot. Fruit rot is caused by both bacteria and fungi. And we can see different causal agents of fruit rot in tomatoes, Alternaria alternata, Botrytis cinerea, and other causal agents. Now we can see that it is not particular to a region in the world. It is distributed worldwide. It is not a localized kind of pathogen. And the conditions are natural openings or injuries. Now, these injuries can be caused by various work being done in your greenhouse. Maybe you have no idea of you're walking past your greenhouse and you mistakenly injure your plants by walking. Natural openings like stem scars or true growth cracks and wounds caused by insect feeding. Also, in warm temperatures of between 25 degrees to 30 degrees and high humidity, these are conditions, like the introduction mentioned, conditions necessary for bacterial and fungal growth that will cause fruit rot in your plants, in your tomato plants especially. And for control, we have keeping the roots from touching the soil can prevent fruit rot. Now, we know that most bacteria and fungi, they attach themselves or they're mostly found in contaminated soils. So by making sure that your fruits don't touch your soil, you can prevent diseases like fruit rot, and also fungicides or copper fungicides can help in preventing this kind of diseases. Now, one of the major fungicides that we use in treating most bacterial and fungal diseases are copper-based fungicides. So copper-based fungicides are effective in treating bacterial diseases or fungal infections that can cause fruit rot. These are examples of fruit rot. Now, these are fruits that we eat on a daily. We see these fruits on a daily basis. We feel nothing is wrong, but these are lesions that are caused by the bacteria and fungi present in that causes fruit rot. These are the different bacteria and fungi that causes fruit rot. We can see a swelling, localized swelling of in the tomato plants. You can see other localized swelling around this plant. So these ones are caused mainly by bacteria and fungi. Other examples of bacteria and fungi infection. Now, this bacterial and fungal infection does not just affect ripe fruits, it also affects unripe fruits as we saw in the above slide. So, fusarium crown and root rot. Now, fusarium crown and root rot is caused by fusarium oxysporum. Now, this FSP, radices lycopene, just means that only affects tomatoes. This is a general name for a fungi. This specifically affects tomatoes. And we can see that it's distributed worldwide. It is not a localized fungi. And first symptoms are observed when plants are mature green fruit stage. Symptoms include the yellowing of the older leaves and agarically possessed to the younger leaves. When it is severe, plants may wilt and die. However, during the hotter days or when the sunny days is more common, the disease progresses faster. Now, like I said, the causal agent, Fusarium oxyporum, it not just causes Fusarium crown and root rot. There are other, as we move further in the slide, there are other diseases caused by Fusarium oxyporum. Conditions necessary. Solanaceous plants. So it can live on solanaceous alternative hosts, eggplant, pepper, or several legume crops. Legume crops or solanaceous plants can host this fungal disease, can host the oxyporum strain. And if we are not careful, if you are not practicing crop rotation, that is, you are planting tomato or you are planting a solanaceous crop and you are planting another solanaceous crop for another cycle, you can transfer the disease from one crop to another. Control, use of varieties of rootstock resistant to fusarium crown and root rot. That is, having knowledge of the kind of tomato that you are planting, making sure that tomato that you are planting is resistant to fusarium crown and root rot. And also, in the previous slide, they mentioned something about grafting. Now, when you have um, a root that is not susceptible to this disease, you can initiate grafting, thereby planting another tomato plant on a root that is not susceptible to this disease, thereby making sure that your whole plant is not susceptible to fusarium crown and root rot. Next slide. Like I mentioned, crop rotation, making sure that the crop you are planting, if you want to rotate, if you want to plant tomato inside a particular greenhouse, making sure that same greenhouse has not been used for another solanaceous or legume crop, like it was explained. So these are examples of fusarium crown and root rot. You can see the vascular bundles have been discolored. The vascular bundles are supposed to be whitish in color, but you can see that the vascular bundles have been discolored to brown and they are rotting. These are other examples of fusarium crown and root rot. The economic importance of these diseases means that you are not able to achieve your required or your target for harvest, thereby losing both money and time in your planting period. Fusarium fruit rot. Fusarium solani, it's called by Fusarium solani, and like I mentioned, FSP, it means that this is particular to only tomato plants, or particular to just tomato plants. Hematotonecria hematococo. It is not distributed worldwide, as you can see. It's only in Australia, Israel, Ivory Coast, Turkey, and others. It manifests on mature plants as leaf interveinal chlorosis. That is, there's a discoloration in the vein pattern of your leaves. There's a slight discoloration from green to yellow in your leaf veins. In severe cases, those yellow can turn brown and the leaves might collapse and die, or the entire plant may die. Conditions necessary. It can survive in soil for 2 to 3 years. Cooler temperatures favor disease development. And when you have root wounds, especially root wounds caused by nematodes, this can affect, or this can introduce Fusarium solani into your soil and thereby affecting your tomato plants. Use fungicides, fumigate soil, or solarize your soil. In previous classes, we learned that you can fumigate using hydrogen peroxide, or you can fumigate using methyl bromide. Although methyl bromide has been banned in some countries, it is still in use in some other countries on a large scale. Next. You can see one of the major symptoms you can notice in any fungal diseases are discolorations on your vascular stems, discolorations on your vascular, in the vascular root system. And one of the problems I can notice with some of these diseases is that if you are not careful, they would have done the damage to your plants without you realizing that this is actually happening in your plants. You can see that most of these symptoms are found in the roots, and the roots, as we know, are not visible unless your plants have been uprooted. So you have to look out for symptoms, other symptoms apart from all these symptoms when scouting, whether in your farms or in your greenhouses. Fusarium wilt. Fusarium wilt is caused by Fusarium oxyporium. In the previous slide, we learned that foot and crown roots is also caused by Fusarium oxyporium, but the specific subspecies of Fusarium oxyporium responsible for Fusarium wilt is Lycopesci. So it is reported worldwide, and infected seedlings are stunted. Oldest leaves and cotyledons turn yellow and they wilt. Move. You can see the yellowing of the leaves. These are the older leaves turning yellow, and they cause, you can see that they're only happening they start happening from one side of the plant before they move on to the larger plants. Vascular discoloration may extend throughout the stem and side branches or even further. Conditions necessary. They can survive in soil for years and is spread by farm machinery through cultivation. This fungus can also be spread by infected plant debris and in irrigation water. One of the other conditions necessary for any fungal development is misuse of irrigation water, mostly overwetting. So for control, today 3 races of oxyporium have been recognized and they are designated in race. The use of resistant varieties is the most effective way to control Fusarium wilt. Thoroughly disinfect equipment before moving from infested to clean fields. That is, do not work in an infested field, then move into another field. By doing so, you are transferring not just Fusarium wilt, you can transfer other diseases. So try as much as possible to limit movement, both of human resources and tools that you use in farms. This is a whole tomato field that has been infested. This part of the farm has been infested with wilt. This part is not infested. You can see that these are resistant varieties, these are non-resistant varieties. But if you are not careful, I don't know, if you're not careful, anything that is happening here can potentially happen here if you're not careful. So other examples of Fusarium wilt, like we mentioned, the vascular part of your plant would turn brown. That is what is most common in most fungal diseases. Yellowing of the leaves, of the older leaves before the younger leaves. Gray leaf spots, Stemphyllum botius, rum, and Stemphyllum lycopesci. Anywhere we see anything lycopessicum, we know that it has to do with tomatoes. So anywhere you see lycopessicum, know that it has to do with tomatoes and specifically tomatoes. It's distributed worldwide. Leaf lesions appear as small brownish black speck. They develop into grayish brown glazed angular lesion, approximately 3 millimeters in diameter. This happens when lesions, that is irregular um, coloration on your leaves coming together, and these lesions get bigger, they coalesce and they become bigger. They are often surrounded by chlorosis. They eventually dry, and the tissue in the center of the lesions crack. That is, your leaf at the end of the day cracks when you have gray leaf spots present on your farm. Tomato fruit and stems are not affected by this fungi. On the brighter side, on the brighter side, your tomato fruit is not really affected by this fungi, but that's not to say that they don't have a damaging effect on your plants in the long run. Conditions for disease development. They can survive in soil and on plant debris from 1 year to the next. Addition, volunteer tomato plants as well as other solanaceous crops and weeds can serve as inoculum sources. That is, they can help in breeding these spores of fungi. Warm and humid weather are favorable for disease development. They can also develop in arid regions where dew drops periods are long, or if the crop sprinkler is, if you are irrigating through sprinkler method. Control. Widespread use of resistant varieties has reduced the importance of disease. Now, when we talk about importance of disease, we are not just talking about, or when we talk about importance of anything, we're not just talking about the advantages, we're also talking about disadvantages of said disease. So, use fungicides to control grey leaf spots. If the variety being grown is susceptible to this disease, remove plant debris and provide adequate ventilation in seedling beds. In all that we have said, one of the most important control methods for any fungal disease is crop rotation, and do not overuse your water in the farm, because these are conditions that allow the spread and the growth of fungi and bacteria. You can see the gray spots with, these are brown lesions with yellow halos. That is, the background of this halo is covered in yellow. You can see them in various sections of the leaves. So, sorry, remember I said they form cracks. So when this happens, these are symptoms that you see on your farm. And it's also important that you go for routine checks in your farm. If it's twice or thrice a week, go around your farm, go within your farm, check and see for symptoms, and attack these symptoms immediately so that they don't spread and you're able to control the spread of these diseases on your farm. Thank you very much.
Please, the answer was not for me.